Hello, I can't believe we're live just out of the blue and for no apparent reason, but there is an apparent reason because if you take a look at this, which is the thumbnail for tonight's live stream, uh, that's what we are here to talk about. So it might, because nobody had any idea this live stream was coming, it might take a minute for folks to get in. So we'll kind of goof around before we get to the real subject. But how are you feeling, Miss Heather?
I'm cool.
You cool?
Cool.
Any major events for you since? Why are you making that sad face? Wait a minute. Let me. We got to put the. Look at this sad face. He's making this sad face. Why are you making that sad face? Why are you making that? Oh, because you got a crutch. Did you did you break your foot again? Was it the same one as the other one? Well, see, now they'll match. You got a broken foot on both sides. So that's the big news for Heather. And oh, this is the big news for me. Holy moly, spicoli. Just crazy stuff. Look, we have Mr. David Sailors, Mr. Christopher Rodriguez, and the Ray Soldano in the house. Oh man, Phil got Heather an iPhone 12 Pro. Actually, I had nothing to do with that. Heather did that all by herself, just based on you got an iPhone 12 because you've been a T-Mobile person, is that right?
Well, I've had Sprint for several years.
Sprint, there you go. You had Sprint,
and then
they merged with
T-Mobile, and they've had the merger happen like 12 months ago last week. So it was like, get a free iPhone 12 on us, and I'm like,
one day only, right?
Yeah.
And Heather said, okay, but the free iPhone 12 was, kind of a basic one with 64 gigs, and Heather needs more giglies than that. So yeah. What'd you have to do to get 128?
I paid $50.
$49 for a 128 gigabyte iPhone. That's hard to argue with. Seems how I made my 256. I made payments on it for a year, and each of those payments, of course, it's a big one, but each of those payments was more than $49. Oldie but a goodie. This is a 10S Max. Is what this is, and I've had it. You've seen how it's paid for now. I know I've had it more than 2 years, but it is still working well. Yeah. She didn't break her foot kicking me. No, she didn't. No. We actually, you know what? Oh wow! I opened my beer and it redlined the microphone. Sorry about that if I blew y'all's ears out. We actually, I bet you did, David, paid significantly more than that. Heather and I actually pretty rarely ever fuss. Even if things like this right here are happening,
you're talking about me kicking you? No, we don't.
Yeah,
we don't fuss.
We're not much for fussing, which is that's a pretty nice thing when your significant other and you are not constantly trying to kill each other. It makes for better. What's the word I'm looking for?
Life.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness. Sorry. Anywho.
I don't need a reason to break my foot.
Yeah. She's going to go to the doctor and see why she constantly falls down. See if he can help her with that sometime recently. David thinks it's a...
No, are we about that A9 life?
I tell you what, I know somebody who was trying to pay for an A9. There was somebody who was on Etsy, and they had an A9, not a 2, but an A9 1. And it was the A9 and was it a 90 millimeter macro?
Yeah.
And a couple of other lenses, and it was apparently in perfect condition. Excuse me. And it was on Etsy for what, $2,000?
$2,100.
Something just ridiculous. I mean, just the 90 millimeter macro was $1,100. And Heather's want to pay. Let me buy this thing. And PayPal would not let her send the money, which I think what that means is PayPal was aware
Yeah.
that it was not a legitimate thing. So they actually saved her booty that time. Oh man, did you get a GFX 100S? No, I did not. As a matter of fact, just today I took 2 giant boxes full of camera gear to UPS to send off to Robert's Camera in Chicago. What's their used?
Indianapolis.
Yes, Indianapolis. Sorry. What's their used department called? Used
Photo
Photo Pro.
Pro.
Yeah, I sent them off to Used Photo Pro with on the advice of my friend Mike Mitchum. And anyway, one of the boxes weighed 39 pounds and the other one weighed 29 pounds. And the stuff that I took to them, you are not going to believe. Let's see, 2 old film cameras that I had just bought recently and never used, so that was no loss. I took them my first DSLR I ever bought, my D7000 that I've had since 2011. I took them my D7100, which Heather has used just recently. I took them my D300S, which I got in a trade from Mr. Ray Soldano. I took them all of my Fuji gear. I took them my Fuji, or I sent them. Hi, Mike. I sent them my Fuji X-T3 that I bought from Mike. I sent them the 16mm 2.8. I sent them the Fujifilm 18 to 55. I sent them the Fujifilm 55 to 200. Yeah, I told them about the 16. I sent them. I'm saving the best for last, the most mind-blowing for last. I sent them the 18 to 105 DX lens. I sent them the 15 to 300 DX lens. I sent them a couple of vintage AIS lenses. Greetings from Denmark. How you doing? Ooh. Crusted Grebe mating season just started. Awesome. Oh man, get your camera out and take a picture, as my friend David Sailors would say. Guys, please be careful. Etsy has been posting camera gear for.
We noticed.
Yeah, that is exactly what we ran across, and fortunately, PayPal had Heather's back and would not let her attempt to buy that. Yeah, Heather had after her second shot. Me and Heather and my daughter Casey, we all had our second Pfizer shot Sunday, and Heather, which apparently look, there's her little red circle. Heather had a little bit of a reaction, which. We made a video about our first shot, and some people commented and said after your second shot, you may have a reaction for about 36 hours, and I was fine, and my daughter was fine. But Heather, if there's any possible chance to become ill or fall down,
I'm your girl.
Heather's going to take advantage of that. She's your huckleberry, as it were. But other than she's got a red spot right here, but your fever broke today, right? Mm. But she had like 101 on Monday. And it got down to, high 90s, and today it's normal. So anyway, let's see, what else did I sell? Bunch of crap, but the one that'll really blow your mind that I sold,
I still can't believe it,
was I mailed off my Pride and Joy Super Telephoto Exotic Lens. I sent off my 500 f4 today. I sent it in. I said, okay, you guys... they made me an offer that, it wasn't an outstanding offer, but I thought it was reasonable for the age of it. And so anyway, next question is, what did I keep? Well, I kept the entire Holy Trinity of Nikon lenses, the ultra wide, the medium, and the 70 to 200 lenses at 2.8. So I've got all those still. I still have my 200 to 500 telephoto lens.
Yeah. I wouldn't let him sell that.
Yeah, well, I had no intention, but I guess if I had attempted to, she would have stopped me. But there was no chance. I still have, as far as DSLRs go, I still have my D800. I still have my D500. I still have my Z6. I still have my Z50, and both of the kit lenses that go with it. Heather still has her Z50. So the Nikon stuff. David says no. I offered to sell it for wholesale pricing to Bass Angler, who is always talking about, hey, when are you going to give me that 500 f4? Well, I tried to give it to him for wholesale pricing, but he turned me down. So I sent it to Used Photo Pro. So they're going. That's a good lens. That thing is rock and roll. And I listed the lens itself as good condition, which means everything works perfectly and it looks 80 or 90% of original. It's got a couple of dings. I remember the first time I took it out. I bumped that giant. It's got a lens hood that's this long and it's made of carbon fiber, and I tapped it against the railing there at the Curtain Pole Road Pond. So the first time I took it out, it got a mark of blue paint on that lens hood. But anyway, the actual, the lens hood notwithstanding, the lens itself looks really, really great. All the rubber rings on it are still, they're not stretching or anything. But the case, I think you guys, anybody who's seen the video where I compare the 500 f4 to the 200 to 500, I show that crazy case. That case is absolutely mint condition. And I sent it back to them in that, or not back to them because I bought it from B&H years and years ago. So I still got lots and lots of Nikon gear. Nikon's not going anywhere, but I'll give you a hint. We did a poll, and in the poll, let me see if I can pull the poll up. Wait a minute, I got it. Summers.
I'm there.
Yeah, but I'm gonna put it on this. I'm gonna put it on the screen.
Okay.
That's how cool I am. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Whatevs. All right. Let's see if I can figure out how to get it on the screen.
Just do left monitor.
So there's the poll. 4 days ago, I put this poll out, and 203 people have voted. Now, some people, I think David knew that I was not getting an Nikon, and counting Heather, there were 4 people that knew exactly what camera I was getting. So most of you were in the dark, and that's why probably most of you, knowing that I'm a Nikon guy, voted for the Z6 II. But I'm not getting the Z6 II. I've already got a Z6, and here's the thing. Here is the thing. I'm not sticking my head in the ground. I watch what's going on in the camera industry, and I see what's happening with other brands. And I got 2 choices. I can either just ignore the possible fact that maybe some of those other brands might be doing a little better than Nikon right now, or I can freaking throw caution to the wind. I'm not Tony Northrup or Jared Polin or some of these guys that have gear sent to them to try. If I'm going to try some gear, I've got to buy it. I've got to buy the camera, which ain't cheap. I got to buy glass, which you can't tell if a camera's any good if you're just holding the camera in a kit lens. You got to invest. Anyway, so I decided, you know what? I've got to see what is going on with these other brands. Now, I still love all my Nikon gear, but I'm not going to learn whether or not staying with Nikon is the way to go unless I give at least one of these other brands a shot, and those other brands are Sony and Canon. So the first thing I decided was I'm going to let Fuji go. Every time I go out and use my X-T3, I think it's really cool, but I think, you know what, my Z50 costs a lot less than that camera if you're comparing new versus new. And the Z50 blows that thing away. I mean, it smokes it like a big old blunt with Cheech and Chong. I haven't had any of that since the 90s, but I still remember. Anywho, Christopher says Phil got a Minolta, and one of my favorite vintage lenses is the first vintage lens I ever bought, and it's the 50mm f1.4 Minolta. As a matter of fact, pardon me. Oh, somebody has their crutches in front of my lens case. That's perfectly all right. As a matter of fact, let me show you right here.
Yonder Minolta.
This is the 50mm 1.4, and I've already gotten an adapter for the new camera. So I'll be able to run the 50mm 1.4 on the new camera, which we have yet to announce. Anybody saying anything that I'm missing, Miss Heather?
No.
Oh, I must have them. Phil got a Minolta. I must have them mesmerized. Anybody? Let's see. There's the poll. There's the poll. So Sony A1, which that's a really expensive camera, and if you guys know me, I don't really buy really expensive cameras. Like I bought the Z6 instead of the Z7. So that kind of rules that one out. Z6 II, I've already got a Z6, and the Z6 II is obviously better, but I don't think it's astronomically better. And I've kind of already, matter of fact, the Z6 and the Z6 II have the exact same sensor. So if you're doing landscape photography, there's going to be no difference. I think the Z6 II is a great camera.
David's biting his nails.
Well, be careful. Just don't buzz them on one of those machines you got. Mike knows which one, and Mike knows because he also got the same camera.
You're gonna give it away then.
Well, no, nobody knows what Mike's got except for what Mike's got, except for Mike. Well, I mean, everybody knows Mike from a XT4, which, by the way, he sold. Anyway, so the next one on the list is the Canon R5. That thing's got an amazing autofocus system that's supposed to be able to capture a bird's eye when it's sitting in a thicket. That's pretty cool. Then there's a Sony A9 II. It's got great autofocus. It's cheaper than an A1, but it's still $4,500. And then down at the bottom is the Canon R6. Now it is an inexpensive camera. What is that? What do you have on the screen? Oh, okay. So Mike posted a picture of his new camera in Georgia Photographer Gallery. So if you guys want a spoiler, just go and look at Mike's picture in David's Facebook area. Anyway, I got the Canon R6. It has incredible animal autofocus. It's supposed to be just super colossal. It's really low on the megapixels. It's only got 20 megapixels, but guess what? I don't print anything anyway. It'll be fine for me. 20 or 21, however many megapixels it is, it'll be perfectly fine. And I am really excited. So I ordered the Canon R6, and it comes with a kit lens, which is a 24-105, and it's super slow. I think it's f4
to 7.1.
But I've learned with the Z50, which I've got the Z50 kit lens on right now, and it's a 3.5 to 6.3, and that thing is dynamite. I don't think. Of course, I still prefer super fast lenses. Like I went out and did some senior picture photography with the Z6 and some of my Holy Trinity 2.8 primes, and I really enjoyed. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, we can't do that too much. We'll get a copyright strike because we're super perfect pitch. Yeah. Well, it's 20. What was 20? I think was it $26.99 or $27.99? But that's for the camera and the lens. And I went ahead and bought the because the telephoto lens that I wanted was out of stock everywhere. So I said, to get started, I need more than just this kit lens. So I went ahead and got the Nifty 50. Their Nifty 50 is what a Nifty 50 is supposed to cost. It's $199. Mm-hmm. How much is a Z-mount Nifty 50, Heather?
I would know because I was looking at it. It's almost $600. It's $596.
That's ridiculous for a Nifty 50. Now that Nifty 50, the Nikon Z S-Line Nifty 50 is supposed to be absolutely amazing.
Heather wants it.
Yeah, and see, and that just goes to show you we are definitely not done with Nikon. We still have every intention of picking up the 200 to 600 when it comes out. Heather's chomping at the bit to buy the 50 millimeter f1.8. But so there's two lenses, and then this other lens, which is also ridiculously slow. They have. The Canon has had for their regular DSLR mount for quite some time. They've had a 100 to 400, and I think it's 4.5 to 5.6. But
I think it is.
The cool thing about that lens is it has a ridiculous minimum focus distance. I remember Arthur Morris talking about it in that video I watch all the time. It's like a B&H.
Do you want me to transition you to the camera?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Arthur Morris, there's a video with him and Denise Idlapa Plapa Topalapa. No, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so
Ipalata?
It might
something
be
like
that.
that.
Anyway, they do, it's like a B&H thing where when people were at B&H, the two of them talked to them and they did a slideshow and they talked about bird photography. And it's great. It's like an hour and 20 minutes long. And anytime I feel like I'm getting rusty on bird photography, I watch that video because it is so filled with great information. But in there, he talks about that 100 to 400 Model 2, and he talks about how you can point it down at your toe, and the minimum focus distance is so close you can focus on your toe. And this 100 to 500 that they've come out with for the RF is super close like that. I mean, super close. I can't remember. Like
It's like 2.5 feet almost.
Something just ridiculously close. And yes, and Mike says, and it is L glass.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Now, David's talking about, he's asking about the 800 f11. Now, I have every intention of getting that lens, but it's just the opposite of this 100 to 500. It's, you know what its minimum focus distance is? 19 feet. And of course, it's f11. It doesn't get any wider than f11. It doesn't get any tighter than f11. It's continuous f11, but it's inexpensive. And I think it'll be great for videos. Like sometimes when I go down to the Curtain Pole Road Pond early in the morning to make videos of ducks, that 800 lens will be great for that. And it's inexpensive. It's not much more than a teleconverter.
It's like $8.99.
Yeah, I mean for an 800 millimeter, what you talking? Plus it's super light. But speaking of super light, this 100 to 500 is lighter than my good buddy David's 500 PF. It's lighter than that. That's crazy to me because
like
the 500
3
PF
pounds.
it's actually less than 3 pounds, and the 500 PF is just barely over 3 pounds. Now the 500 PF is 5.6, and this is 4.5 at 100, and a ridiculously slow 7.1 at 500. So you know I'm taking a big chance. I'm getting rid of a 500 f4 prime, and I'm getting that slow ass lens, and that lens is high. It's expensive. It's $26.99. I think it's going to be great, but no matter what you tell me, or how much I like it, I'm going to say it's overpriced because you know Nikon has the 200 to 500 that's like $12 or $13 or $1,400, depending on whether or not it's on sale.
And that's
that lens is
F-mount.
right, but it's dynamite. I mean that lens is absolutely dynamite, and it works well with the FTZ adapter. So, you know, this lens is overpriced, but it's an L, so it'll be super, you know, I think one of the things about L is it's got fluorine coating, and another thing about L is it's super duper weather sealed, and, you know, it's an extender lens, and when it closes down, it's like a 100 millimeter lens. It's really small, so it'll fit in my bag easier. I'm really excited about not carrying around that over 8.5 pound 500 f4.
That almost killed you when we were in Hilton Head.
Because you know, usually if I'm in a situation other than shooting out the window of the car, I use the 200 to 500 because that 500 f4 is too heavy. Well, somebody has been using my 200 to 500. So I'm having to use the 500 f4, which is a superior lens, but man, oh man, you know, it's like carrying a boulder when a rock would kill the thing, you know. Mm. So, are you going? Troy says, "Are you going to CFC games? If so, what are you going to use?" Well, at CFC, what I use is during the day because of course, right now there's a tournament going on that Ray got some fantastic photos of, by the way. But if I do some CFC this year, and I'm not sure if I will, it depends on how many hoops I have to jump through to get a photo pass. If they're going to jam a toothpick up my nose after I've already had both of my shots, I think I'll just pass. But what I usually use is on an APS-C camera, either my Z50 or my D500, I use the 70 to 200 f2.8 after dark. And before dark, I'll use on the full frame camera, I use the 200 to 500 on like a Z6 or the D800. And yes, he is. Ray is definitely the man. Dave TV says he has the 100 to 500. Well, Dave, you got to tell us what you think about it. So, you know, and I might bring the R5 and the 100 to 500. I don't think that'll be a good lens for after dark. Mm-mm. Congratulations, Phil. Just curious, did you rent it first? I did not, man. I just took the freaking plunge. Go hard or go home. Did you rent it first to see if you enjoy it? Sometimes I find that I enjoy the camera in the store using for a few moments, but when shooting it for a time, I've returned it. And I strongly doubt I'll return this, even if I'm not just thrilled with it. I'll probably bite the bullet and learn how to use it. But I have a feeling, and maybe I'll be wrong. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully I'm not wrong, but I got a feeling I might just love this thing. I got a feeling I might just love this thing. Or maybe I'll hate it. Who knows? If so, I'll sell it and buy some more Nikon stuff. But I didn't go with Sony. A lot of everybody thought, like when I talked to David a little bit, I didn't tell David, who I talked about this a bunch, what I was going to get, and I didn't tell Bass Angler, who I talked about this a bunch. I didn't tell either one of them what I was getting, and both of them said he's going to get a Sony. He's going to get a Sony. He's going to get a Sony. They had seen
Mark Smith.
Mark Smith, who's a great wildlife photographer who has switched from Nikon to Sony. And so I think that may be what made them, or what led them to the conclusion that I was going to get Sony.
That and that 200 to 600.
That 200 600 is awesome. Heather and I, we were at the dam not too long ago, and we were taking pictures of
tree swallows.
Tree swallows. And that video's not out yet. Oh, that's something else I got to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there was this gentleman there who had an A9 II and the 200 600, and it looked like he was shooting with a Fisher Price camera. That thing was tiny.
It was so little.
And an Osprey flew by, and I'm sitting here with the 400-pound lens trying to get the Z50 to focus on that thing, and that guy goes. I mean, it was like 30 frames per second, and I said, "Did you get it?" Asking if you got it. Oh yeah. Oh well. Scheissbot. So anyway,
and it's an internal zoom.
Yeah. Now, well, see, but the good thing about that is there's no part that gets wet that might get sucked back into the lens. But the bad part about that is, like when compared to the 100 to 500, it will shrink down smaller.
That's true.
Than that thing's smallest size.
Yeah, it's pretty small though.
Yeah. Anyway, I think Heather wants an A9 II and the 200 600 Sony.
I really do.
But Heather is not just this girl who sits beside me and does whatever I say. She's got her own head on her shoulders, and she's very skeptical about the f7.1 part of the 100 to 500, and I don't blame her. I'm a little worried about it too, but we shall see. Oh, I have received a message.
Massage.
And it's from Troy. It's from Troy, who is also here. They gave me a media pass, and you are more well known. Well, that's very nice. Thank you, Troy. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to get in. I don't want to shoot the whole season at CFC. I'd like to do a few games. Ray says, I just want a Z6 II, but they're out of stock everywhere. But Ray's waiting until they get them at Allen's, because at Allen's they don't charge Tennessee sales tax. So come on, Allen's Camera up there in Frono's Photo Land, get a Z6 II in so my good buddy Ray can get his ordered. Now I was going to talk. I just reminded myself a minute ago. I've been doing, and to a certain extent also Heather, we've been putting out. Between the two of us, or the two of us together, we've been putting out 3 videos a week for the better part of 6 months. And this spring, it has become very difficult because I'm back to 11-hour shifts at work instead of an easy 10-hour shift. And my daughter's playing softball, so a lot of times in my free time where I would be making a video, instead I'm cheering on my wonderful daughter as she hits the softball and gets doubles and triples.
Atta girl.
That's my girl.
Also, Heather has had multiple medical emergencies.
Oh yes, I've had to. Heather, she broke the foot, and she had a tooth extraction that I had to take her to the doctor for. So anywho, we're usually doing 3 videos a week. I'm usually a month ahead of schedule. I got down to where I only had 6 videos in the hole. And that's only 2 weeks, and when you get only 2 weeks ahead of schedule, it's like So I went ahead and took off all the Monday videos and stretched those 6 out. And probably what I'll do, like when the camera comes in, I'm sure I'll do an unboxing video of the camera and I'm sure, oh, Troy is saving for an R6. Well, I'll let you know how it works out. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty cool. I hope. But you know, the thing about it is, you know, I'm used to having Holy Trinity lenses to go to, and I don't have any for this. And you know, the 7200 2.8, which I want badly, it's $26.99. Um, I can't decide whether I want the 24 to 70 2.8, or they have this ridiculous 3 pound 28 to 70 f2, which would be just a really killer portrait lens, and maybe even a pretty cool up close sports lens. But the thing, it's 3 pounds. It weighs more than the 100 to 500 by 5/100ths of a pound. So that'll tell you something. But anyway, so probably for the next few weeks until I get my feet back under me, there will either be no Monday videos because I'm about to not be ahead of schedule, or maybe there might be I might do all my unboxing videos on Monday. F2, David says. Yeah, can you imagine? It's supposed to be every bit as sharp as a prime, and you can shoot anywhere from 28 to 70 at
That's
f2.
crazy.
Hey, everybody take a guess without looking it up on Google. Guess what the front filter thread is on that 28 to 70. Do 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 do. Do 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 ba do 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 bump ba bump bump bump. Oh, I messed up the end. Bump bump. Well, it's 95 millimeters. It's 95 millimeters. That's a pretty close guess, Mike. 95 millimeters. That's the same front filter thread as Nikon's 200 to 500. And here's another example of how small the 100 to 500 is. The filter thread on it is 77. So there you have it. I'll probably get the 24 to 70. You know, I was shooting back to I took the Z6 out in a couple of Holy Trinity zooms, and I was shooting some senior pictures of my daughter's boyfriend, and the very best picture of the bunch was made at 24 millimeters f2.8. So if I had had the 28 to 70, I wouldn't have been wide enough, and I would not have gotten that shot. So I'll probably, as much as I'd like to have the super exotic f2, I'll probably get the 24 to 70 f2.8 at some point. Right now I'm kind of tapped out. But I did sell, they offered me for that giant pile of gear, Roberts or Used Camera Pro, whatever they are, I think they said right around 5,500. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I also sold my boat. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Although the fact that you broke your foot again means we can't take the boat out, but I've kind of wanted to get rid of it for a minute. So, no boat. Let's see what some of these folks are saying.
Dave is telling you about the 100 to 500.
It is great, but you're right about it being overpriced. Yes, it's definitely. I mean, that thing ought to be, the Sony 200 600 is $19.99.
Yeah, man.
That thing ought to be. It's 100 millimeters. It's slower and shorter. It ought to be $18.99. I'm going to test it more this summer. I think you will like it a lot, though. It froze a few times in the electronic shutter. You know what, Dave? TV. I don't think I'm going to use electronic shutter. Yeah. I mean, the R6 with the right battery, charged more than 50%. There's a lot of stipulations, but that thing's supposed to shoot 12 frames per second mechanical. That is plenty fast for me. So I don't see me using electronic shutter unless I really need silent. Dave TV says you'll love the R6 for birds. Well, I certainly hope so. I want to be able to up my game on birds in flight. And my game, since I've started using Z series Nikons, has actually gone down a little bit from when my main wildlife camera was the D500. So I'm really excited about hopefully this thing blowing my mind. And maybe it won't, and I'll be very sad. But I have a feeling it's going to be pretty good. Anybody else saying any stuff? Mm-mm. So that's the answer to the poll. the camera that got 5% of 213 votes. The Z6 II was 76%. The A1, Sony A1 got 9%. The Canon R5, which has the same autofocus system, but it's a lot of megapixels and has 8K video, and it'll do 4K 120 frames per second. It got 6% of the vote. The R6 will do 120 frames per second at 1080p, and it'll do 4K 60 frames per second. That's the one. I don't care one bit about 8K video, and although I wish it had like 24 or 30 megapixels, I don't care one bit that the camera doesn't have crazy high 45 and 60 megapixels. But I would really like for it to have 4K 120 frames per second, because I really enjoy shooting super slow-mo. Yeah, we have, David, we have signature packages coming from both UPS and FedEx tomorrow. And guess what? I might be down at the marina signing papers to sell my boat, and guess who is really slow to get to the door?
Guess who really can't go down steps using crutches?
Yeah, so I'm going to put a sign on the door that says, "Dear FedEx and UPS drivers, we are home, but we're not moving very fast right now, so please be patient. Don't go back to the truck and take my new camera away. Please be patient and wait for my sweetie to get to the door." I'm probably going to be here, but at some point, first of all, they may come late, and if they come late, I'm going to be at my daughter's softball game. But if they come early, I might be signing papers for
Yonder boat
to sell the boat. And then the rest of the day, I'm going to plant flowers and probably make a time lapse of it. So that'll be something.
That'd be fun.
Mike says, I tried shooting with the 1.6 crop and it produced a really good image. Now, what was the resolution at 1.6 crop?
I think it's like 8 megapixels.
Yeah, I would think it would be super duper tiny. Now, I wonder, Mike, and this is something you may already know because you've already got yours. I wonder if you can still shoot, I wouldn't think you could shoot 4K video, but I wonder if you can still shoot 1080p video with the 1.6 crop, because that's something I would use. I'd like that a lot. So, let's see. To sum it up, I'm getting the Canon R6. I'm not leaving Nikon, but I thought it was important, even though ridiculously expensive and scary. I thought it was important to try this other system. And I picked the Canon over the Sony. I don't know. Sony seems like a maker of video game systems and stereo equipment and TVs, and not a maker of cameras. Of course, Canon makes everything in the world too. I don't know. I'll tell you something else. When I was thinking about getting a really small camera for vlogging, I was thinking about getting a Sony RX100 Mark V or V, and that seemed like, from the specs, that seemed like the camera. And I went down to Best Buy and I looked at it, and there was also the Canon
the G7X
G7X Mark II. Yeah, thank you. And it did not have as good a specs as the Sony, but I operated them and tested out what it was like to make them do their things. And the Sony was just, I could get it to do what I wanted it to do, but it was really weird and uncomfortable, and the Canon was very intuitive. And I'll tell you something else. This little camera right here. This is this little camera. This is the Canon EOS M50, which is a APS-C mirrorless thingamabob. And I bought this just for vlogging. It fell over on a tripod and busted the screen, and I just put a screen protector on top of the busted screen, and it still works great. I use this thing all the time, and the fact that this camera works so well and it just does what I need it to do without any fuss is another part of why I chose to try the Canon instead of trying the Sony. This little camera is fantastic. I mean, fantastic. And I'll tell you something else. Nikon was smart and Sony was smart. when they went mirrorless, they have the same mount for their APS-C and their full frame, which is the way it should be. Now, Canon was dumb. This APS-C has one mount, and the R series cameras, this is an M series, which is APS-C, the R series cameras have a different mount. So that is dumb, dumb, dumb. However, the rumors that are going around say that Canon is going to release a camera that may be called the R7, and it's going to be APS-C, and it's going to be using the R mount. So I'll be able to use, assuming I'll be able to use, RF, I'll be able to use my the lenses for my R6 on this camera, which I can't use on that M50. So anyway, I think they have realized their mistake, and they're going to go to a universal mount between APS-C and full frame, like they had with their EF. I still don't know my Canon terms too good. I think EF was their full frame, and EFS was the APS-C, where FX was Nikon's full frame, and DX was their crop sensor. But they're interchangeable. You know, that just, is somebody saying something?
Just put a Nikon sticker on your Canon to avoid theft.
Oh, that's mean.
Dave says that 100 to 500 froze more on the R5, but he's updated the firmware, and now he has a battery grip, so that might help it.
Cool. Yeah, you know, there was this overheating thing with more the R5 and to a lesser extent with the R6 when they first came out, but apparently that's been fixed with firmware. So I've watched a lot of YouTube videos where people talk about, well, the only way I can get it to overheat is if I just really try to and put it at the highest quality and the highest frame rate and the highest resolution and just let it run forever until it overheats, and then it'll overheat. That's exactly what Sony is, but they need to update their 7200. That's what I hear. I've heard that. I've never used that lens, but you know what? That lens is newer than my Nikon 70 to 200 f2.8G VR2, which now that there's a Z mount, it's 3 generations back, and that lens is still dynamite. Even on the FTZ adapter, I used that thing during the senior pictures that I made Sunday, and it was fantastic. But I imagine that, you know, using the new Z mount one on a Z mount camera would be just mind-boggling. And I imagine, you know, the Canon one, now that I keep running my mouth about Canon, when they first showed that thing and how it was it was not an internal zoom, I thought, well, that's stupid. 7200s are supposed to be internal zoom. And then I thought, man, my 7200 sure does take up a lot of space in my camera bag. Well, the new Canon one that shrinks down at 70, it takes up as much space as a 50, or so, well, not as a 50, but it's small as an 85, you know. So anyway, I'm excited about trying this Canon system out, and hopefully I'll be able to learn how to use it. You know, the front dial. I think the thing that bothers me the most. The front dial on a Nikon. Where's a Nikon?
It's on the front.
Let's get a Nikon. Look at this fancy schmancy Nikon. The front dial is on the front, where it ought to be. The Canon, the front dial is on the top.
That's weird.
I don't know about that. That's going to be hard to get used to. That thing right there bothers me more than anything. Now the rear dial is where it's supposed to be, and I think, you know, on a Nikon, this dial here is shutter speed, and this dial here is aperture, just like God intended. Now apparently on the Canon, I'm going to have to reprogram all the dials to get this one up here to be aperture and this one back here to be shutter speed. But the Canon has this dial here. See this thingy? This is a directional pad, which is dumb because this is also a directional pad. These two things do the exact same thing. But on the Canon, on the R6, there's a little joystick thingy. And this thing is not a directional pad, it's a wheel. So you can have your ISO on this thingy that spins. So anyway, I'll have to figure out how to get it all programmed and stuff, but it's going to be a new and exciting adventure. Now, you know something else about the R6, you know, the camera I'm selling, the one that I actually used a lot, is the XT3. And that may be the prettiest camera I've ever owned. Looking at it, it is just beautiful. The way the dials are set up on it. But when you pick that thing up and hold it, you have hand spasms if you shoot with that thing for 45 minutes. Until I put my... can you grab that grip right there for me?
Yeah.
Sorry, cat.
Okay.
So I bought... Yeah, there you go. I bought this thingamabob, and what's funny is it had no value to trade in, so I still have it. This is the small rig L bracket. See, it's an L bracket for the XT3, but the coolest part about it is it's got this extended wooden, it's cool looking wooden grip, and it makes the XT3 not be such a hand cramper. The Z6 is attractive looking, and it's not a hand cramper. The R5 and R6, they look like refugees from 1995. They're super rounded and look like an old camera from 25 years ago. But you know what was cool about the cameras from 25 years ago or whenever? Those rounded cameras felt great in your hand. There was no sharp angles anywhere on them to be uncomfortable when you hold them. So the R6 is going to be quite an ugly and comfortable camera, I think. I'll let you know over the next few months as I put it through its paces. I'm going to do landscape, I'm going to do birds, I'm going to do macro, I'm going to do all sorts of stuff. I've already bought adapters for M42 mount lenses so I can put my Helios on there. I've got Nikon adapters so I can run my Tokina macro lens, and I don't have an ultra wide for the Canon, so I can run my old Rokinon Nikon mount ultra wide. I've already showed you the adapter for the Minolta. So anyway, but I'll still be using this too, and the Z50 is not going to get retired anytime soon. So looking forward to it. New adventure. So anybody saying anything? Mike says it does feel great in the hand. David says I so wanted the new F-mount 7200 FL Nikon, but good grief, it was expensive. Yeah, those Holy Trinity lenses, they ain't cheap, my good brother. They are not cheap. Holy smoly. David Ray says I was in the same boat. I need to replace my Tamron 7200 since it won't work with my Z cameras. Ended up with the Tamron 7200 G2. Has that come in yet, Ray? Have you got it? I think I was understanding you to say it's already here, but I may have misunderstood you. What's everybody else saying? Move that over. Troy says, I'm looking forward to seeing how the R3 will do. I don't know if they announced it or if it's still a rumor. I think they announced it. But it's supposed to have some sort of autofocus that follows your eye. I don't understand. I haven't watched a video about it or read about it yet, but some sort of, I don't know, does that mean you put your eye up to the EVF and you move your eye around and the focus point moves? I don't know. Surely I'm misunderstanding that. Yeah, Aaron does use the Tamrons, doesn't he? I got mixed emotions about the Tamrons. On the one hand, they produce fantastic photographs, and that's true, Mike. You actually did not. I had pretty much already decided to get a Canon, but it was cool that we both got R6s at the same time. And to tell you something else, we were both lamenting, Mike and I, that you couldn't get the 100 to 500 anywhere, except for they had used ones that somebody was selling on Amazon, like a third party retailing through Amazon. They were selling used 100 to 500s for, it was either $600 or $700 over MSRP. And I had been looking at Amazon at least 3 times a day and every other decent photography website, and nobody had them except for Amazon for $600 or $700 over. And Mike hit refresh or something, and suddenly they had some in stock. They had like 10 in stock. Mike bought one, and I bought one within 5 minutes of each other. Both of them are being shipped out of Colorado and heading this way. I bet they're on the same plane.
Probably.
Or
Because Mike's not far from us.
yeah, Mike's just down the road a couple hours.
Oh, man.
What else? What were we talking about before I interrupted myself?
You were talking about the R3. Oh.
Yeah, that's I need to watch a video before I make any comments. I'm going to look dumber than usual. 7210 f4 is a great lens on the D850 that doesn't have focus breathing issues. That's a nice thing. I'm almost sure that my 70-200 2.8 VR2 is a massive focus breather. But I tell you what, I did that first time I tried street videography. I was using the Z6 and the 70-200 2.8 G VR2. And even though it does have some focus breathing, man, that combination just works super smooth. The focus pulls, like one time I focused on I focused on a train that was all the way across the lobby and outside.
Oh, yeah.
And then I pulled back and focused on Heather, and that thing just went, and it was cool. Even with the focus breathing, it was not bad. So. But you know what? I was talking about Tamron. I worry about long-term compatibility. See anyone who has a G1 Tamron lens, and suddenly it won't work with the FTZ, which wasn't even a thing. And I also worry about longevity. Like, I've had at least my 70-200 and my 24-70, that 2/3 of the Holy Trinity, I've had them for years and years and years. They've been with me in bars. They've been with me on football fields, softball fields, everywhere. I was holding the D800 and the 24-70, and I got knocked onto a stage while a live band was playing, with microphones falling over on top of me, and those lenses are tough, and I worry about, and I'm probably wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I worry about the longevity and toughness of a Tamron lens when compared to, a first party lens. Sometimes I think you get what you pay for, and sometimes I think you get a bargain. So there you go. Fro was talking about the eye focus, and he said it was weird because it focuses where you are looking. Yeah, that's
weird.
That's kind of what I understood it to be, but it's I don't know. Like I say, Mike, I don't understand it yet. Ray says I'm too rough on my gear to buy a name brand. Well, I don't know. Maybe because you're so rough on your gear, you should buy a name brand because it's tougher. I don't know. You can weigh it out. But I mean, if you can buy two 70-200s third party, or one name brand one, and I see your point. I may stick my old lens on the D500 and loan it out to people wanting to try shooting. Oh, that's a great idea. Ray Soldano's soccer photography mentoring program, available now at Finley Stadium. Yeah, that'd be really cool, Ray. That'd be really cool. He said if I had Ray's money, I would burn mine. I don't know. I know this entrepreneur who's done pretty well for himself, who can pretty much buy whatever he wants to. I'm not going to name any names, but he has worked hard for what he has earned, and good for him. Let's see, what else am I seeing up here?
I don't know.
Well, that is pretty much what we wanted to go live to do, to kind of answer the great poll, and so that is the answer. And I appreciate everybody tuning in on this impromptu live stream. David would call this a guerrilla live stream, and so we are hoping to answer the doorbell with various FedEx and UPS drivers and do all sorts of unboxing videos yesterday. Plus, I've got to go shoot soccer tomorrow, and I have a feeling that Heather's going to be at home with her broken foot waiting for the UPS and FedEx man, who will probably come late, and I'll be shooting with Nikon gear at the soccer match, and that will be just fine. Ray, yeah, Ray needs to come buy a Palisade from me.
Palisades.
Palisade. Those are ridiculously nice. I wish we could sell them for a reasonable price, but they're so hot right now that the only reasonable idea is to sell them for well over. I mean, anyway, they're
They ain't cheap.
give them a little while and maybe they'll settle down. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. As David would say, get your camera out and take a picture. Get your David Sailor's Georgia Photographer Geico tap going. I don't know, maybe Adrian Alford will be tuning in, and he would say never stop creating. And Heather and I say thanks a bunch, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Everybody be good, and don't be too mad at me for trying Canon. Bye-bye.